The next would be the last talk of this session before the panel discussion by Dr. Basu Malik on. Okay. Okay, we will have a live surgery at the same time, and so now will be the live surgery, and I thank the we thank the organizers for giving us this opportunity to chair this session.
We are proceeding with the live surgery now. This is about anterior cruciate ligament reconstruction. Almost started. I request Professor Leonard sir and Dr. Sugunam sir to join this session to moderate the live surgery on the ACL reconstruction. This guy it is normal. Otherwise, you see the drawer positive, drawer 2+. You can see the latchman. As about the pivot shift test or the medicine. Got some pain and hamstring spasm still there.
When I first did my ACL revision, the first 2 ACL revisions I did after seeing a video in a similar kind of a conference of somebody, an expert came in and showed us a video of a revision ACLR, and I did it exactly the way he showed it. Both of them failed within 6 months of the revision ACLR. The reason is I was concentrating constantly on how to do a revision ACLR, but the story begins much before that. So we must understand why ACLRs fail in the first place. Why did the first surgery fail? Unless we know that, no matter how we do a new one, is going to fail again. So this will start the story before a revision ACLR. This is a case 1. A male, 27 years. He had ACL reconstruction 6 years back, had excellent recovery, good sports activity. Then he came back with a repeat twisting and a repeat instability. There's pain and instability now, and on examination, there is a Latchman 3+. So he's got a ACL tear positively. So these are the x-rays. Okay, so what do we see? Old implants are there. The joint is very well maintained and looks good. The ACL did serve him well. So we do a MRI, and the MRI shows that the graft has torn. So, but you can see the remnants of the graft, which proves that the graft did work for 6 years. Okay, and the menisci are well preserved. So this is now a ACL re-tear. This is a graft re-tear. So that's one group of patients. There's this patient, middle-aged, 44 years, had ACL reconstruction 10 years back. And he has had an asymptomatic recovery period, but he was never a footballer, never a player. He just did running and gymming, and he was happy with his knees, doing very well. His only problem was after running 3-4 kilometers, he started to have a bit of pain in the knee. On examination, his Latchman is positive again. So now this is another group of patient. 10 years old, 10 years post-surgery, middle-aged, low-demand knee with a lax ACL. And you see the X-ray, the primary ACL was not done well. So the screw, the femoral tunnel is far too anterior. But in spite of that, that knee lasted 10 years. And you see the X-ray, there is no degeneration as yet. Okay. Okay. Now, this is case 3. 34 years, ACL reconstruction 2 years back with the medial meniscectomy done. But he has got persistent instability since his surgery. He has never been happy with the surgery. In spite of extensive rehab, in spite of going to professional rehab people, he has not got his knee well. His Latchman is positive. Now you look at this knee. Is it playing, not playing? Video not playing. Okay, the video doesn't play, but you still can see he's got an enormous amount of varus in the knee. And when he walks, you'll be able to see that he has got a varus thrust as well as he walks. It is this varus thrust and the varus alignment which is giving him a persistent instability. And this varus thrust and the varus alignment will tear your ACL, even in a well-done ACL. In addition to that, as you test him, you see he's got a dial test positive. So he's got something more than the ACL. So it's not just a pure ACL tear, or at least it's currently is not just a pure ACL re-tear. There are certain other issues to it which is giving him the instability. You look at his X-ray, the tunnels are relatively well done, at least from the X-ray. You look at the MR, and you see there is complete loss of medial cartilage. There's no medial cartilage there. The tunnels are relatively okay. And you can see that there is a discontinuity. There's a discontinuity in the lateral side. The lateral collateral is lax. You can see the popliteus there. So popliteus is not gone, but the lateral collateral is lax. So there's something else happening apart from the ACL. So don't just think of ACL. So failed ACL reconstructions comes in multiple patterns. One will be a post-traumatic failure. Had an ACL, did well, rupture again. One will be a atraumatic failure or an asymptomatic failure because of a technical issue. It was not done well in the first place, so it failed. And some will be asymptomatic failures, means the ACL is gone or it's dysfunctional, but the patient is not symptomatic. And fourth would be failure due to other issues like alignment issue, other ligaments failing. So not all ACL reconstruction failures are failures of the graft per se. There are other issues to it. Don't just go ahead and do a division ACLR because it's going to fail again, because there are other issues playing the game. So how do I define ACL failures? One would be some people coming in with a subjective laxity. They're complaining that my knee is unstable. Some, the patient is not complaining. The doctor knows that the knee is unstable. So these are objective laxities. And some with not laxity at all. They have other complications from the primary ACL like a stiffness or pain. Look at the group in which you diagnose the laxity, not the patient, the objective laxity groups, which you can call stable ACLR failures. We don't really know why these patients are asymptomatic. These group actually might be copers, people who didn't have instability from the first ACL failure in the first place. So they probably didn't need the first ACL reconstruction. Studies have shown that 1/3 of all people with lash band positivity and 1/5 of all patients with pivot shift, even after ACL reconstruction, will be asymptomatic. So there's a huge group with positive lash band, positive pivot shift, but asymptomatic. These are not patients who are good for ACL reconstructions. So we know that these knees are going to degenerate in future, degenerate faster than the healthy knee, but don't operate. Treat them conservatively, even if they have a primary ACL failure or a ACL reconstruction failure. They are difficult to understand but relatively easy to treat because the patient is not complaining. The second group is a stiffness and pain group. These are multifactorial, can come in from infection, arthrofibrosis, chondral damage, and a whole lot of other issues. And it's difficult to understand why the symptom is there, and also difficult to treat because you don't really know the reason, you don't really have an answer as well. The third group is a subjective laxity group. But again, remember this, that not all laxity is coming from your ACL repair failure. There are other issues which can contribute to laxity. One could be extensor dysfunction. Two could be from alignment issues or secondary ligament failures. And three is graft failure. It is this graft failure group which needs a revision ACLR, not the other groups. For the other group, you need some other surgery, not a revision ACL surgery. And for those with extensor dysfunction, they only need rehab. You don't need a ACL revision surgery. If you look at the graft failure group, the group which is ideal for revision ACLR, majority, at least 1/3 will be post-traumatic failures. Means had a good ACL, did well, had a re-tear, and 1/2 or 1/4 will be technical failures or problem with the primary surgery. And there's a huge group which has got an overlap. So don't just jump onto a revision ACLR as soon as the graft fails. There are other issues you need to think of again. So traumatic failures, technical failures, and biologic failures. Biologic failures can also be because of infection or arthrofibrosis. So what are the symptom patterns? There are mainly two. One, a group coming in and saying my knee never felt stable even after first surgery. So basically unhappy with the first surgery. These are relatively early onset instability post-surgery. And the second group who have had good function and come in with a new issue significantly later, which are late onset instability. Going to the first group, which is the unhappy group, people who are not happy with the surgery, they either had an incorrect graft placement or a poor graft fixation or a poor graft tension or an incomplete surgery. Means probably just one ligament was done and some other ligament also needed to be done at that point of time. The late onset group are usually because of a new trauma or a secondary restraint failure or a biological failure. Now they're looking for or choosing the right patient for a revision ACLR so you don't get a bad name for yourself or you don't end up with a failure again this time. These are ones who come with instability only. The instability is the primary complaint, not pain and stiffness. The alignment is good. They don't have other ligaments failing. The LCL, PCL, PLC remains good. They have good range of movement. Not the right patient. Don't operate the second group, that is people who have pain only and no subjective laxity. And, okay. Now, looking for the right patient, how do you take this patient to the surgery table? Check for his standing alignment, check for his gait and his thrust, check for patellar mobility and extensor mechanism function, and also check for laxity both in the anteroposterior and the mediolateral directions. Okay. Get an X-ray done, which will show you a varus valgus alignment, again an issue of osteoarthritic changes. When you start planning for a revision ACLR for this patient, remember all that has been said in this lecture, especially these two slides. One, rule out a lateral and a posterolateral laxity. And two, don't operate on patients who have got secondary instability issues with a revision ACLR. Now, for an early ACLR group, people who have never had a successful surgery, people who had persistent instability. So what's your game plan? We know this group has a poor graft tension, wrong graft placement, other issues of technical failures. So target is to get a perfect tunnel, a perfect tension, and a perfect fixation. Now, how to get a perfect fixation, we don't really know. We can get a CT scan to see where my previous tunnel was and whether my area of new tunnel is virgin or not. Most common in the femoral side, your new femoral tunnel area would be virgin. So you don't have to worry about your previous tunnel, your previous implants. The problem is on the tibial side. Most often the tibial tunnel will be in near perfect position. So you'll probably have to go with that tunnel, which is easy, or you have to find a tunnel which is immediately next to it. That becomes slightly difficult. Making the new tunnel slightly eccentric is slightly more difficult. Okay. So how do we do it? 11 steps. The first 4 is in your clinic. So get your X-rays so you know where your implants are. Get a scanogram so you know the alignment. Get an MRI to see whether the other things are injured or not, the meniscus, the cartilage. Get a CT to look at your new tunnel area and the old tunnels. Now, next steps are in the OT. 1, get your tibial tunnel in an anatomic position. If you think it might converge with your previous tunnel, start from the anterolateral side, not from the anteromedial side. So you can get another tunnel to come out slightly next to it. On the femoral side, get the ideal tunnel. I hope you know the full form of ideal. It's isometric, direct, eccentric, anatomic, and low tension point in the femur. That's a whole lecture differently. So get your, you need to have an anatomical tibial tunnel. You need to have the ideal femoral tunnel. Take a thick graft. Make your graft at least 9 millimeter. If need, you add a ultra tape or a Marcelin tape to the graft to get primary strength. Get extra-articular tenodesis or a ALL if pivot shift is your primary constraint. So don't just do a revision ACL, do a revision ACL with an extra-articular tenodesis. or an extra-articular ALL reconstruction and give a prolonged, slow rehab. There are two more optional steps. One, probably going for double fixation. Don't just depend on the tunnel fixation. You put in a screw, also put in a post. And the other optional thing is put in this internal brace. I think people who are accustomed to Arthrex will know this. Now, this is a case of early ACLR failure. This was the X-ray that we had. So it showed that the femoral tunnel was way off. My femoral new tunnel area was in a new position. The tibial tunnel we used the previous one. And now we have a new ACL reconstruction in which the old femoral implant is still there, but the new tunnel is there, which is divergent or in a more anatomical position. But we have had to remove the tibial screw because it's impinging on the way of our new tunnel. Okay. Late onset instability. Now you need to have a game plan for this group who had a significant period of healthy functioning. These are mostly because of repeat trauma, but the issues are slightly more complicated because the tunnels would probably be in a perfect position, but they would have been wide. Over 5 to 6 years, they have become pretty wide. So you need to, and they'll have implants in place. Implants from 6 years, 10 years back. So you'll have to think of implant removal, you'll have to think of narrowing down the tunnels, and you'll have to find perfect tunnels as well. These are again high demand knees because they have re-ruptured means they have tortured their knee enough. They will also have probably degenerative changes. So what's the thing, how do we go ahead? Again, the first 4 steps are to be taken in the clinic. You get alignment, X-ray, MRI, and CT. And the next 5 steps are in the operation theater. 1, preferably use a BTP graft. This has 2 advantages. 1, it's a very strong graft. 2, the bone plugs, if you take them large enough, it can actually fill up large tunnels in the bone. So that's an advantage of a BPTV graft. Preferably use an internal brace. For second revision, means first revision failed, second revision, you're going for a second revision, you'll have massive tunnels. Go for a 2-stage procedure. Fill up the tunnels with bone graft and think of a ACL reconstruction at a later stage. Tibial tunnel, preferably try to go outside in, again from an anterolateral entry because medial tunnel would have been big enough. Femoral tunnel, try to go in outside in as well. This is a different technique you use, not the conventional technique that you use. You have to go from outside in. There's a special jig for this so that you can put in your tunnels but in a different trajectory. And they have got 2 optional steps to take. 1, how to remove all implants. This is an issue in old cases. And whether we need to do an HTO if there's a varus malalignment which has developed by this time and which is causing a stretch on the old ACLR. Now, coming back to our 3 index cases. This is a 6-year post-traumatic failure. We had a CT. We knew that the femoral tunnel was a little high up. The virgin area, femoral tunnel area was still virgin. Went ahead and did a ACLR with a new femoral tunnel using the old tibial tunnel. Okay. Coming to case 2, in which the femoral tunnel was way out. So we continued with sports and rehab just because this patient was not complaining of instability. So this is a case we don't want to touch. Coming to case 3, who had a ACL failure because of a lax lateral and posterolateral corner. In this case, we got the scanograms. The right knee was definitely into varus, varus. And we didn't touch the ACL at all. We just went ahead and did a high tibial osteotomy, slope changing on the lateral closing wedge. So your tibial slope becomes less and the knee becomes relatively more stable. Thank you. I welcome you all to next month's trauma course in Kolkata. We have a Munich trauma course with it, so hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Basu. Yeah, thank you very much. I request Dr. Suganam to do the honors for Basu.